What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Vlad the Bull, your #1 Embrace coach. And I want to let you know that my book, The Embrace Method, How to Leverage Your Trauma and Pain to Live the Life of Your Dreams, the second edition is now available on Amazon for purchase. Through heartfelt anecdotes, practical exercises, and profound insights, this book will show you how to confront your demons, heal your wounds, and emerge stronger and more resilient, ready to embrace a future with limitless possibilities. Remember, embracing your pain is the first step to transforming it into power. Be sure to get your copy today. And remember, embrace your struggles, embrace your successes, and most importantly, embrace yourself. Visit www.embracemethod.com to learn more about the Embrace Method book and the Embrace Framework.
Welcome to the Root and Rhythm podcast, where we explore the essence of culture, our experiences, and a healing journey that shapes our growth and family. Through heartfelt stories about marriage, mental health, relationships, and parenting, we create a space where you can find connection, understanding, and inspiration. Join us as we explore the rhythms of life, one story at a time.
What's up, everybody? Yeah. Welcome to another episode of the Roots and Rhythm podcast, where we explore the rhythms of life, one story at a time. As always, it's your boy, Vlad the Bull, your #1 Embrace coach. Now, if you were a fan of our show, you probably realize something's a little different. So there are two firsts in the history of the Roots and Rhythm podcast. Number one, Angie Mami is not in the building this week. She is traveling with the one iota, the only one, Wall Tom and the princesses. So shout out to them. Hope you enjoy your vacation, sis, and we will see you next week. Yeah, so that is the first piece of business. But in the wake of that, we have something lighter to bring with you guys. For the first time ever in Roots and Rhythm history, episode number 20, nice and round number, we have our first in-person guest, y'all. So I want to introduce him, and I'm not going to hold you because this man is too great for me to just be making some things here. We got a brother in the building, okay? So we don't want to delay that. So check this out. Our special guest today is a father, a mentor, and a role model, and a motivational speaker. He is CEO and founder of the Comeback Kid Mentorship Program, where he encourages children, like he once was, who are searching to become more than what's expected, and motivates adults to get through their childhood trauma by facing it head on. Y'all gotta make some noise, man. He is a decorated military veteran, a cavalry scout. In fact, he's had a deployment to Iraq, who served his country overseas. He is Mr. Changemaker of the Year 2024. He is 40 under 40 honoree, my man. Yo, I'm telling you, I don't even have enough space on this phone to be telling you guys this. And this is how I met the brother. TEDx speaker 2024. Saw this man on a TEDx, listened to his speech, and I was blown away. I sent him a message, and I thought, hey, I'm just going to give my man a pat on the back. I don't think somebody of that stature is going to be talking to me. Long story short, the Comeback Kid, Mr. CEO, is in the building. I want you guys to welcome our very special guest, Mr. Cordan James. What's up, man?
Peace, blessings. Glad to be here, brother.
Yeah, glad to have you here, man. Thanks for coming to the R&R studio, man. What you think about the country?
The country's nice. The country's peaceful. It's quiet. You got a beautiful life.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you coming back, dog. You know what I mean? Seeing the crib and everything.
Absolutely.
So Cord and I have been working on a lot of things, man. We're not gonna say anything, but you just stay tuned to what we got going here. But today the conversation is centered around masculinity, vulnerability, and growth. Absolutely. And I figured there's no better person for me in my life right now, my sphere of influence, than my man Cordan James, right? So we're just going to get into it, brother. This is an extension of some of the things that we've talked about at length in our conversations, but I want to give you an opportunity to give yourself a little bit of an intro. What do you want the people to know about you, and who exactly is Cordan James, brother?
First of all, your voice is booming, brother. Doing great on that.
Hey, come on, man.
All right. Beautiful family ended in a divorce. In that process, grandfather had the kids. Through that process, my mother grew up with her brothers, older brothers, mother not in the home, mother gone. She was, in the streets of Los Angeles with the older brothers doing their thing, learned a little bit too much, started to fall into some bad habits, as well as, she mentions that she struggled without having her mom. She just raised around all men. So she got into some rougher stuff, got into some drugs. I was born from that process. So born addicted to opiates.
Wow.
Yeah, so coming from that process, we went through foster care. We went through transracial adoption. Transracial adoption is when you adopt a child that is a different race than you, a different ethnicity than you. And so I was adopted to a white family and moved to Utah. So growing up in Utah was a different lifestyle, very complex. It's just being a kid, trying to be a kid, but there was always a lens of being a black boy in an all white place. There was it was just all white people. And, just growing up strict religious and the constraints of that. Went military when I was 19, back up a little bit.
Yeah, take your time, bro. We chilling, man.
18 years old, I became a father.
At 18?
18 years old. So right out of group homes, detention centers, 3 months out, became a father, got married. And from there, I found my biological mom. It was a whole slew of things happened after I graduated.
Wow.
Found my mom at 18 years old on MySpace.
Wow, shout out to MySpace, man. For y'all remember. That's like real old school for my Gen Zers out there. Yeah, that was before your time, but it was a trip. Go ahead, brother.
So just flowing through MySpace, I had some names on a piece of paper and searched, saw this beautiful black face, young black man, sent a message that connected me from that moment forward, connected with my whole family. And I grew up not ever really knowing if my mom was alive based on the stuff that I learned on her lifestyle. And so, that was a big moment, and we've kind of been doing our thing since then. It's been 19 years since then, and we've come a long way.
Wow.
And so that's kind of forced me to what I do now. The comeback kid is that when I was in therapy, 13 through 18, it was the first time my therapist ever called me a comeback kid. And this was right after my family and I had a falling out. I think a lot of people can relate when your kid's in the system, especially in the foster system. Sometimes when your kid does something wrong, you're disappointed. Right? And I think for some parents, that's really hard to digest. How do you process, this is somebody that I love and they're struggling and I don't know what to do, right? So you put them into a program, and once they're in the program, hands off from there, you do what you can do. They were struggling with their own stuff, but we really fell apart from that 13 through 18. To the point that I was told I wasn't going to come home. I was denounced from the family. And, I remember walking into therapy. And, we did group therapy every day.
Oh, you did?
Every day.
Okay.
Group therapy, individual and group therapy.
So, and I'm assuming that was that was just a non-negotiable.
No, not yet.
you going to therapy one way or another.
Oh,
today.
Yeah. Very, very therapeutic. Every day in and day out, 5 days a week. Individual and group therapy, activities, ropes courses, books. Yoga, meditation,
Yoga and meditation, that's actually pretty progressive. I did not imagine that as being part of those programs. But
yeah, I feel like I got blessed in the sense of when I can look back and think about the care that I had. Because a lot of times, you can see Netflix series, you can read the stories. You can see the cases, you can see the numbers of kids that go to programs and get abused or worse, right? Some kids.
Yeah, actually, there's a documentary attached to it, but to your point, there's a show called Wayward on Netflix.
New one.
It's a new one.
It's new.
And it's about a fictional place called Tall Pines, and it's like a correctional school.
Yes.
But it was mirrored off of, the person who created or wrote the series actually wrote it and based it off of a real experience, a real school. And I'm going to get through the miniseries, and then I'm going to actually watch the documentary. But even it being a theatrical depiction of what happens at this fictional place, it was hard to watch, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I seen that. It's very realistic in some senses. There's a lot of cases of that happening.
Wow.
So I was very grateful that I went to a place that did not have that. My therapists were good. My staff was good. And I mean good as they had a genuine interest.
Right.
And you can always see the difference in staff. Right, you could see that you just got your bachelor's degree and you showed up here.
Yeah, you're trying to get you some brownie points. Cut your teeth on me. I don't think you're ready.
Nah, yeah, exactly. And it was an all boys group home,
Right.
So you come in and you don't know what you're talking about, or you're little, they're gonna get you.
Right.
But then there was the staff members, like you have your favorites, right? The people that really get through to you, that really drive that home. I can think of Brian Alba was one of them guys. I don't know what he was muscular.
Brian Alba. That sounds like a muscular name. Brian.
It's like, when you think about masculinity, like what are the things that like help you get through, right? He was a masculine representation. He was muscular. He was well spoken. The way he would address you was almost like he knew that he could get through to you.
Right.
He kind of joke with you, but also like, hey man, I really need you to. Hey, you can't be doing that, man.
Right.
Right. And so it's people like him, and and then my therapist was Native American.
Cool.
So I got a lot of that holistic. We talk therapy modalities, but we talk about like, I remember she used to make me pick grass.
She used to make you pick grass?
Sit outside on the grass.
Oh, wow.
Right? We'd have our therapy session outside. We didn't always have it inside the office.
So I like that. Like I could just think about being grounded while you're experiencing therapy, man.
And I'm like, can we go in the office?
Like while we rolling around in the dirt, man.
I'm allergic to the grass. But we just sit there and like she would have us like pull the grass, right? And we stack it up. And it would just be like a grounding thing. You never really thought about it, but then she'd go into like some Native American stuff.
I love that, dude. I love that so much. I love every piece of that. So, all right. So so you were in this program.
My bad.
And when did you leave?
18.
18.
Yeah,
okay.
So 13 through 18.
So I'm assuming you aged out of the program.
Yep.
Okay.
I graduated the program per se.
Did they give you they give you a sash, or they give you or is it just like you're graduated, it's time for real world?
No, there was a transition period where when I went off to college to start school for psychology, which is, again, all around the same time when I found my mom. I was actually at college when I found my mom. So my therapist for a few weeks was on the phone with me as I transitioned out of this and still having like on the phone sessions and whatnot. Wow. So there was that support, and my foster parents were always good, always good and caring.
Actually, first of all, man, thank you for sharing your story, bro.
Yeah.
I know that people... We're always talking about stories on this podcast. This podcast is centered in storytelling and authentic storytelling. And I just thank you for being able to bring that into this space, man. It's not only bring a value to me personally, but I'm sure to all of our viewers, man, they're going to hear your story and be like, wow. And this man is sitting here with a straight face and he made it. Like he's here.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the statistics, those of us that make it out of foster care and survive, it's very rare.
Yeah, and in conversations with you and with my wife, I don't realize as a layman person just how often that experience is. And it's always made me reflect on the people in my life or my lives at different phases of my life who did have at-home experience that I even know, right? Is that an identity that people carry? So I guess my question for you is that something that you lead with? Because in your work, obviously, I saw your TEDx, man. So you do a lot of like you're leading with your story, you're leading with your vulnerability, which is what makes you so accessible. But that piece of your story is pretty significant. The fact that you had foster care experience, the fact that you were removed from your home and your parents. So is that an identity that you feel comfortable leading with in 2024? And how did you get there? Hey everybody, it's your boy Vlad the Bull, your #1 embrace coach. Listen, I know that you are enjoying this Roots and Rhythm podcast episode, but I want to take a minute to talk to my fellas. Let's talk energy and vitality. If you've been feeling low, sluggish, or not quite yourself in the bedroom, it's time to check out the Natural E-Man. It's a powerful, all-natural men's supplement created by a good brother I trust, Dr. Quentin Cancel, someone I met in my men's group who's all about holistic health and real results. Trust me, I've seen the impact firsthand. So if you're ready to level up your energy, confidence, and performance, visit naturaleman.com and feel the difference. That's naturaleman.com. The link's in the show notes. All right, y'all, let's get back to the podcast.
Great question. It's definitely a role that I embrace now. That's part of the comeback kid theory, right? The comeback kid is about coming back stronger, but it's also about coming back for those that are lost along the way, right? And that's the advocacy piece, right? Me being able to voice out, I'll take you back to 2019 when I first, COVID, everything was happening. For some reason, I found the word transracial adoption. I never heard it called that way. It was just adoption, right? You're adopted.
Right.
But transracial adoption was a hashtag. And when I clicked that, I saw a bunch of people that were just like me. talking about, hey, I grew up in the foster care system. Here's what's been good about it, but also here's what's bad about it. Here's what I struggle with, which is, around their identity, around the trauma that happens within adoption. So it's beautiful for me to hear that word, transracial adoption, give an identity to that, hear other people speaking so richly about their experience, families speaking about their experience, and the complexities of like actual adoption, and especially transracial adoption. So I think in leading with that, it gives voice to the concerns, to the care that it takes in adoption. I think it's necessary that we do lead with it. There's a lot of people like me, who are voiceless, who are caught up in the system, who don't have a voice. And for all those that passed away along the way, you see the childhood crimes that are happening these days.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
A lot of adopted, so it's like you got to give voice to it, so you can put light on it and continue to advocate for them. You
probably know this, but I grew up Haitian, and in Haitian culture specifically, adoption happens all the time,
right?
And it happens across every culture, right? But it's not as formalized as it is in America. So my mom's mom, my grandmother, she was raised by, I think, an aunt. Yeah. And again, Cordan, it's just so crazy how when there isn't language for mental health, and when there isn't language for psychological disturbances or just mental health issues, it's just got a group of people who just gloss over things that are inherently traumatic, right? So my grandmother was raised by an aunt, and I asked my mom, why was my grandmother raised by an aunt for? And she's like, oh yeah, well, her mom was crazy and was running around in the woods. And I thought to myself, I'm like, why? That's pretty relevant information, right? Because if what we're saying, she was crazy, if there's no outside of the religious explanation, there's a scientific explanation, there's a genetic explanation. What happened? But that happens all the time. I know one of my friends, his mom was raised just by somebody who was close to the family. And I think they call that kinship adoption. But it happens all the time. I've got family members, cousins of mine, who were raised by our aunts, and we didn't really think much of it, but nobody ever named it as adoption. And so first person to frame that for me was Jules, right? And I'm like, oh, I never really thought of it that way. And then it made me think of all the things you were saying, like the identity piece, how even though they're adopted by people who look like them, their identity is still rooted in their biological parents. I don't think that's something we can escape. And so, yeah, man, I'm curious to know, as we center this conversation on masculinity, vulnerability, and personal growth for men. And there's all my brothers listening to this right now. You're gonna get some nuggets and jewels up in here
today.
Yeah. So my question for you, Cordan, is, what was your understanding of masculinity growing up? Like, throughout all those experiences, I'm sure you've had different caretakers and you've met different people. Who taught you how to be a man?
Man.
And what that even mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, we still trying to figure it out, but yeah.
I mean, it was definitely at 3 years old being adopted by the Haverons. I was with them from the ages of 3 to 12. I'll say that was like my first example, right? And we're talking a man who is a cowboy. Like think of Chuck Norris, but with brown hair.
Oh, gee. He
wore it, right? 3rd degree black belt in Kempo, so martial artist.
Get out of town.
Very country. Like the place we grew up with, small, extremely small. So imagine real small town living, right? Where you pretty much work. There's a main strip in the city that you drive.
Right.
From one side of the city to the other, and that's it.
So you're probably pretty comfortable coming up here then. This is like right up your alley. Because that's kind of where we live, right? Small town, one road.
Super
Everything's in the center of town, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Very, very small. You grow up with the same kids your whole life, right?
Yeah.
From 3 to 12, you graduate together. Some people stay there. You get your homeschool sweethearts. Very, very small town. Mom worked part-time. Dad had 2 or 3 different things he was doing.
Right.
He was a full-time custodian at the high school, or at the middle school. And then he always had something else he was doing. So that kind of goes into like, he always had 2 or 3 different businesses. My dad was always working, which lent to like, didn't really see him at sport events, but when he did, it was a big thing. In middle school, we always got to see him because we have like sport events at the school, and he had to close up the school. So he was usually there, but you know, he might miss he might miss that little slam dunk or something.
Right.
But
he was there to see you. He was there to see you ascend, right?
In presence, right? You know? So like that was a good example of like how he treated my mother. They seemed to get along well. There was a lot of music. I remember a lot of music, right? Him singing a lot. I can't say I could see a whole lot of emotion come out of him per se.
Yeah, well, let's dig in on that a little bit. So you described what you described in your father is a lot of what we experience as men, right?
Yeah.
What we're told is acceptable.
Yeah.
You're seen, you're not heard. You provide, and provision is financial. It's not necessarily emotional.
Yeah.
A man who didn't express himself a whole lot. How did that shape your identity as you were growing up in a small town? Sure. Where I'm sure things happen in small towns like they do in big towns or in big cities. But then how did that teach you as a man how to communicate and not?
I mean, I was not a boy that communicated well as a kid, just with everything that I had going on.
Right.
But I also didn't see it from him a lot. I think I seen him happy. I did always see him communicating with people, which is where I'm a very social person.
Right.
That was always something that he would do. We would go up north 3 hours away, and he would talk to strangers for hours in the parking lot. So there was that like lighthearted connection, loving people, helping people out. But like maybe one-on-one time was like, it wasn't like if I was in trouble on something, I maybe get scolded on something. Then maybe there wasn't necessarily like a mirroring or like a relatability of like, hey, I was going through this at one time, and it'd be like knock that shit off.
Right. Yeah.
You know, which was when I look at like how he was raised, right? I heard his stories of like his dad was very violent. His dad would whoop his butt, and he had all brothers, so they all grew up that way.
Wow.
So I could have never expected him to be. I think he was as vulnerable as he could have been.
Right. Wow.
Like fist fights with his dad. I remember the time he told me, I feel like that's how it was. Like
a legit fist fight?
I feel like, do you ever hear those stories with our grandparents? Or like our fathers, they had that moment where their masculinity with their dad clashed.
Oh, and they say, you think you're a real man, right? So fight me, that type of deal.
I ain't never had that. I ain't never talked crazy to my parents, first of all. My mom can never say that I ever said anything crazy.
Yeah, no, for sure. Not same here, man. I'll talk about my father in that in a second, but that was never going to be a thing. No, my dad.
Not at all. So like they had that moment, but yeah. And I think, when I look at like how that situation went, when they adopted me, that was a problem. Right? They adopted a black child. My grandfather did not like that they adopted a black child.
Wow.
So in retrospect, being a father now, I was like thinking about like, how would that be if I, my kids are mixed. What if my black side of the family didn't like that my kid is mixed, and then they treat that child some type of way, let alone adopted, right?
Right. Wow.
So I can only imagine what that felt like falling out with. And they fell out. So imagine my dad
your dad and your grandfather.
Yeah. So imagine, I don't even know what that felt like.
Did they fall out as a result of your adoption, or did they fall out for other reasons?
I think there was other reasons, but that was it was well documented that he had issues with some, he had me, and then my uncle was with a Native American, and he wasn't a fan of that.
So he wasn't, sounds like your grandfather wasn't a fan of the mixing. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I get it.
It's what they know, right? It's like what they know. It is, Wow.
So,
Wow.
Very complex masculinity in the house. Dad always took care of things. We had our soft moments, like, cuddles or like back rubs. We had our routines per se. We do work together. You spent time doing things with your dad.
And those are like bonding moments for you, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Did you ever feel like something was missing out, just outside of the larger lens of adoption, right? Like this is your adoptive father we're talking about. But in your relationship with him, do you ever feel like anything was missing? Was there something that you wish you could have had from your dad that he didn't give you?
I wonder, just because I grew up with so much trauma.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to express this in like I wish he knew or fault him for it, but I would like to, if he had the capacity to ask me differently what I was going through. Instead of just being mad at me and like hard and like beating my ass and like military stuff, but like, hey son, you're going through a lot of stuff. I'm seeing you acting out. What's going on?
Yeah.
Right? 5 through 8, I'm being touched by other people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the racial thing, like there's certain things that I definitely think dad should have went harder for. Right? And I don't know if he was armed with everything to even handle those conversations, even racial conversations. Right? I'll come home and tell you, hey, Dad, I experienced somebody call me a nigger today. You think he had the wherewithal?
I mean, this is a white man, right? So who has he had to have that conversation with before you guys were adopted? And what competencies did they have? You know, I asked my wife the same thing. Like, what competencies did your parents have when they adopted you? Did they go through like a racial sensitivity class? Did they go through a course where they prepared them to be raising transracially adopted kids, like kids that don't look like you, right? And she was like, are you crazy? I was like, what? That's a serious question. And she's like, nah, no, ain't nothing like that in the 80s. There's nothing like that. So
even still, like racism and bullying are two different things. We'll make that very clear.
Racism and bullying, you said?
Yeah, two different things. However, bullying, same thing. If your son comes home and is like, hey, these kids were doing this, this, and this, to have that conversation.
Right.
Well, here's, you know, how you going to handle that conversation? You going to tell them to get them back? You going to tell them to go tell the teacher?
So what was your father's response? I'm curious.
My dad was a martial artist, so it was a lot of like, don't let nobody play you.
Right. Don't let nobody punk you.
But
return it.
I feel like it got reduced to just ignore it. Like, don't give it energy. That was the big one, is don't give it energy.
Wow, damn.
Like, pretty much you have that button and you need to shut it off. You know that that's going to be your hot button, and shut it off, because you can't just punch everybody that. And like, sometimes, to be honest, sometimes I felt dismissive, because it wasn't stopping. It wasn't, you could, like, we could go to the principal, or I don't know. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting, because it's almost like it's a path of less resistance. And in essence, I could see where your father was going.
I was doing a lot of fighting.
Yeah. I could see where your father was going, right? It's like, all right, listen, you're getting enough scraps as it is. Don't be putting no more scraps on my plate, okay? Yeah. Just ignore it. And I don't know if the bullying at that point was verbal or physical in nature, right? But that is something that you hear many men say. Hell, I mean, dude, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, my father had told my brother. Now, my brother is 6 years older than me.
Sure.
And at one point, he went to the park and he was at the sandbox, and some kid punched him or something like that, really like hurt him. And he came home and said, this is what happened to me. And he said, and my father's like, he got like irate with him. Like, you should go back there and whip his ass. Right. But it wasn't even really that's not even really what he said. That would have been a bit more acceptable. But what he did instead was, for years, and I witnessed this, remind my brother for years that he was knocked out at the sandbox. Like, that's why that kid knocked you out. That's why that kid punked you. And I watch it chip away at his self-esteem. Like, damn, my daddy's actually almost celebrating the fact that I got my ass kicked. And so when I heard your story, it made me think of that desperation that most men grow up being placed in, from a place of desperation that their dads were in, you know, and it could be generational, right? But that's why you and I, even in having these conversations, are breaking that mold, right? Because when we're talking about vulnerability with men, it just, let's just be frank, it does not wash, as Chris Hansen would say. You ever watched To Catch a Predator with Chris Hansen? Oh my God. It was like must-see TV in the early 2000s. He would catch these guys in stings. They would work, these local organizations would work with departments who were trying to catch people who were preying on children.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I heard that wrong, yeah.
So Chris Hansen would come in and be like, and he's like, oh, I was just here to tell them that their parents were, and he's like, well, that doesn't wash with the conversations you were having. What was the lesson here today, right? So yeah, our understanding doesn't really wash. I want to talk a little bit more about your experience with the military, right? Like, if we're talking about, as we're examining what was the relationship that our dads gave us with masculinity, with that identity, and then you went into the military.
Yeah.
And we all know that military, paramilitary organizations are hyper masculine in nature and patriarchal. So how was your understanding of masculinity and your identity as a man either further shaped or affected by you entering into the service?
Yeah. So I went into the military as a U.S. Army Cavalry Scout, which is a men's only role, infantry. So I was around men all day. So I went in at 19, was in till I was 23. Man, not that you ever thought about it as masculinity, but I mean, it was hard charging. These guys that just came home from Iraq, RIP, but they had lost 3 or 4 guys on their deployment. So you can imagine you came into a platoon of warriors who had been, they faced real war. So, and we were on a rapid deployment unit. So we had a year of training and then we were going back. So it was very much like they had a couple months to like relax and then it was back to the training schedule, which for us was like 2 weeks in the field, 2 weeks out. So you're really home for 2 weeks and then you're in the field doing different stuff. As well as, military, your days are 12, 13-hour days.
Yeah, for sure. Damn.
I guess when you think of like the overscope, right? We did what we had to do. Masculinity at that point, to me in my head, comes down to like our acronym, which was leadership, right? Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. That was what I saw day in and day out with these soldiers. And that became the lens. However, there was a harder aspect, right? When you're at war and you're, we train with guns all day. We're doing cultural training to deploy to this other country.
Yeah.
It's a different lens. Going to war, bro. Just who you got to be, right? You leave you say goodbye to your wife and kids, and you say, I'm going for a year, and hopefully I come back. Yeah. You write your will. Right.
Oh, you guys were writing wills too.
Oh yeah, you could write.
Oh, you good? They can still hear you. Yeah. But you can't hear you.
You write your. There we go. Yeah. So
I do that all the time, man. I do it all the time.
With the score.
Like damn, karate chop.
So yeah, it was hard charging. It was good, but like when I look at like the toxic sides of it, which I get because it's war, right? When you were injured in the military, you did not go take care of it immediately. You had training to do. You needed to be there for your brothers. It's a sense of responsibility. But the other side of that is you got hazed for going to medical.
Well, wait, time out. Yeah. You were teased for getting injured and going to medical and seeking treatment?
Yeah, you'd be called a sick call ranger.
Yeah, in the state police, they called us medical muffins. And you know what they would do, right, Cordan, is that they would make you sit at a special table at the chow hall with all the other medical muffins. And so, you know how you have to sound off in basic training going everywhere, like hurry up train or whatever it is they have you singing. But as a medical muffin, you couldn't run. Even if you like, I don't know, broke your finger and you could run just fine. Yeah. You couldn't run. You were forced to walk. And instead of saying, hurry up, trainees, hurry up, they made you walk around going, ooch, ouch, ooch, ouch, ooch, ouch, oochie, ouchie. One time they made, and this is like in the beginning of the academy, right? Where everybody was just injured because you're running everywhere. You're double timing everywhere. So everybody's knees look like watermelons and shit. And my knee was like warped, bro. You ever warp a tire and it's kind of like this? My shit was all over the place, and I had to get a brace. So everybody's knees were messed up, right? Absolutely. You acclimate, you train. Eventually, I think it's like 6 weeks and your body acclimates. Yeah. But I remember sitting in the back of formation, man, and they're like, "You're not gonna chant ooch, ouch today. You're gonna chant, I'm useless, I'm useless, I'm useless." And then this drill sergeant, her name was Sergeant Lizardo. Off record, she was so sweet, one of the sweetest ladies you ever meet. But you wouldn't know that in basic training because she'll whoop your ass. Absolutely. And she was only 5 feet tall or some shit. Yeah. And she walks up to me. She's like, "Yes, you are, Lassant. Useless. Carry on." I was like, okay, got it. So yeah, I mean that seems pretty consistent around the board, right? Anything that is military, paramilitary oriented. Damn, to even just think about. I'm injured. I can't even say I'm injured because I'm going to get punked.
It's complex, and I don't quite know how to unpack that because there is a necessariness to being that hard, right? Sure. When I think about like being in the sticks when we was, in the field in theater, yeah, if you have an injury, you gonna figure it out. And I get that you need to instill that in people, but the other side of that is when that soldier's really injured, whether they make it to deployment or not, when that person's really injured, they're not taking care of themselves. Right. Like the documentation, a lot of soldiers are getting out and they're like, I didn't document anything. And now I get compensation.
Yeah. That happened to my boy, man. And here's a dangerous part about that I see among veterans, because a lot of my classmates were veterans as well.
Sure.
You have to tuck away. You have to be able to compartmentalize even physical injuries, right, to an extent, in order to get your job done. In high risk, high stress environments, you're not going to have time to go to the medical and get you some Advil or wrap your shit up. You're going to have to figure it out. And that's fine, because you have to do that, right? But then what happens when you're no longer in combat? What happens when you're no longer on mission? What happens when you go home and you're mentally injured from what you've seen and what you've experienced? Because let's keep it a stat. You were in basic training. There are people who started with you on day one, and many of them did not make it through basic training.
Right.
There were those who started with you in infantry or whatever, and many of them did not make it through for one reason or another. Yeah. It is not normal for the human in the human spirit to operate that way long term. It is not normal to see death, experience death,
right, and
be like, all right, I'm gonna carry on. It's just another mission. It's not normal. Yeah. And I remember having this conversation with some of my coworkers, and I said, hey, like, for example, I have a friend of mine who at one point he was working in unattended deaths. That was what his unit was investigating. Now, when we say unattended deaths, we could talk about anything from an overdose to, somebody who died in a car crash and nobody was witness, like, some stuff like that. Yeah. And I asked him, yo, bro, you all right? And he was like, yeah. He stopped explaining all the good things that happened. He's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I was like, no, I know the unit's good, but are you okay,
right,
my brother? Because you're seeing a lot, man. I'm worried about you. He's like, nah, bro, like, why would I have a problem? I'm like, why wouldn't you? Right? But I'm sure you've had your fair share of navigating that.
Yeah.
Especially as a man. Men don't cry. Men don't yell. And if you're and that's just like the average man. That's just what you're getting off the gate. But then if you're a man who's in service, especially public service or military service, you have another layer of duct tape over your mouth and over your heart, because your disconnection to those primal feelings of fear, of dread, of all that, you can't do that, and you can't access that while you're in a high stress environment. So
imagine that person that does 22 years.
Yeah, dude, I can't even imagine.
I had soldiers that had been in for a short amount of time, but like, again, every other year. So if you was in for 5 years, you might have had 3 deployments back to back, combat deployments back to back.
Damn.
Right. And then, I got to give a shout out. I had some soldiers that, or even leadership that enjoyed deployment.
I'm sorry, you said enjoyed deployment.
Enjoyed. I mean, we used to always joke, like, I want to go to deployment because I get that Iraq money. Right.
Oh, so it was, you got paid.
Yeah. There was always that benefit. Right. But if you look at, like, why do people go into the military? Right. For me, I went in because I didn't have a job and I needed to provide for my family. And that was a good something, right? It was a last resort out of all the things that I didn't want to go do construction. I was like, military, something stable, respectful. I was doing some street stuff before that. So it just made sense to really do something honorable. But not everybody, like, some people go in for patriotism, right? Do their duty to their country. I wasn't thinking about none of that.
yeah, for real. Yeah, I used to think the same thing. Nah. Everybody's looking at the bottom line.
Yeah, right. They go in for college. They go in for whatever, but right. But like, when you go into that, you don't think about what are you actually doing, right? You're really going to war for our country.
Yeah.
And what does that do on a grander scale, right? And I didn't think about that part until I was actually in Iraq behind a 50 caliber machine gun. Right. And now at this point, at this decision is, do I pull this trigger?
Wow.
Right. And so it's just like with a lot of things, you're there and you're there and you're there. And then you got to make that decision. So, like, what does that really do to someone's heart when you go to war, when you are planned to take out somebody else?
What did it do to yours?
I have no kills. We'll just throw that out there. But
but you were still there.
The one thing for me, and I'm kind of shy to speak on this, but I'll speak on it.
You don't have to speak about anything you don't want to speak on, bro.
I grew a conscience. Was my biggest problem.
That was a problem. Dig into that, actually. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Like, a lot of times when it comes to that view of, you're desensitized, right? You're in the military. You're taught certain things. Your target looks like said person that you're going to war with. You're shooting guns all day, the jargon, the words that you like, hyper violence, right? And it needs to be for whatever reason, but like, what does that do to a man? And how do you justify that? Why do we have PTSD, right? Because we're in, not just because that explosion went off, but we also saw some crazy stuff, somebody's body part, or God forbid, you have a kid at home and you had to, whatever happened in that, that country. But I feel like it was, you started to see them as family, and you're not supposed to. Like, you see them as humans.
Instead of targets.
Instead of targets.
Right.
So I see them as humans instead of targets, and that's not the goal. Because then you go on conscience. And
your conscience might preclude you from fulfilling your duties.
Correct.
Right.
Right. And like, I think, how does that permeate into like masculinity?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you know what it makes me think of is...
Like, how many times could we wake up and have a conscience with things, but it doesn't play into masculinity today, right? There's not once you break down masculinity, there's not always a soft place to land in that different type of masculinity that you're learning. The one that's emotional, the one that surrenders, the one that is balanced even. That's not always, right? We're very hard charging when it looks at, masculinity looks like it's very hard charging. It's focused. It knows what it always wants. It speaks up for what it always wants. And that's not the case. Some of us are, we outwork human beings.
Yeah, I heard a quote in my men's group. Somebody said, "You are a human being, not a human doing." And often men fall into this trap of justifying their existence through simply doing and accomplishing and achieving and overcoming. And all that is great. Like, I'm not saying that you should be ashamed of your accomplishments, or a man should be ashamed to talk proudly about their accomplishments. But at what point do we stop and reflect and look at the fact that we can just accomplish until we die and never experience life?
Sure.
And when I was at the state police, it was a very similar experience where I was growing a conscience, and I was getting frustrated by the fact that the people around me didn't seem to have that same conscience, or at least in the moment, right? So a small example I'll give is when I was assigned to Logan Airport. And Logan Airport, for those of you who don't know, Logan Airport, if you're ever flying out in the morning or in the afternoon, at least for 30 minutes at the top of an hour. So on the eve shift, so I'm thinking like 6:30 to 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 11 o'clock. I actually don't know about the eve shift, but at that time, you have to do what's called an enhanced patrol, which means you walk around with a long gun. We were all qualified. We had to qualify with an MP5 at the time, which I thought was fun. That shit was fun to shoot. Right. I'm like, damn, this is great. This is better than shooting a 45, man. 45 sucks. The 40 is just smooth, had a silencer on it. Beautiful, beautiful gun. I'm like, can I buy this when I retire? They're like, nah, you can't do that. And so at Logan, we have a lot, and it still has a problem with homelessness. People were unstably housed. And they would come to the airport, and they would just be sleeping on the public side of the terminals. I don't have a problem with that. Right. My mom always told me about, she was a little girl, she was sleeping on dirt floors in Haiti.
Sure.
My father didn't tell me this, but my mom told me about my father, that my grandmother, my dad's mom, would be sewing clothes together from the hand-me-downs from my aunt, who's older than my dad, to give him clothes to go to school. So like, my parents come from poverty. And I have never had any preclusions about homeless people. When I grew up, the first 10 years of my life before my parents divorced, across the street from my house was a halfway house, or a homeless shelter. Gotcha. And so the people who are homeless, who come to get services, bro, they'd be sitting on our steps. I'd be coming home from school, and they'd be sitting on our steps. And, hey, man, what's up? Hey, you got a cigarette? I'm like, nah, I'm only 8. I'm sorry. Like, I don't smoke. And so what I'm trying to say is that these people were a fabric of society. That's how I grew up thinking. Any day could be your day. You never know. Nobody wakes up one day is like, I'm going to be homeless, or I'm going to be addicted to drugs, or I'm going to lose everything, and I'm just going to choose to be this way. Yeah. But there are some people who think that, though, Cordan. Yeah. And so when I got there, we go to roll call, which I was not used to. On the road patrol, you don't have roll call. You just sign in, and that's it. You don't really, if you don't want to see people you work with, you never have to see them unless you bring in the rest. Absolutely. And I kind of like that, because there's some times I just didn't like people that I worked with, and that was cool. Right. I got to see you. You got to see me. If I come through, it's love. And they come in roll call and they'd be like, hey, you guys got to go out there and run all these homeless people. You got to go out there and find out if they have criminal histories. You got to go out there and if they have a warrant, which most of them do, you got to lock them up and send them a message, somebody said. And I remember thinking to myself, this is where patriarchy goes wrong. The fact that we think that we are empowered to do something like that, to disrupt people's lives who are already disrupted. I mean, we're talking about people who are at the bottom rung of their life. And you're telling me I'm going to send them a message by locking them up? Most people who are homeless don't want to go to shelters because they're overrun. The only bed that's available comes at the cost of them getting robbed or beaten. And the airport is big. It's well ventilated. I don't have a problem with you sleeping here. Don't mess with nobody, and I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. And most of these people weren't bothering nobody. Right. And so, anyway, I said all that to say this. I started to grow a conscience, and I just refused. And I wish I learned this before in my personal development, but I suppose it took going into a paramilitary organization to realize this. I don't like being told what to do, right? Especially if I don't believe in what you're telling me to do. Correct. And I'm like, shit, I wish I realized this shit before I went into the academy, because I don't like being told what to do. So I didn't like being told, go in there and make and wage war on the homeless people. I'm not going to do that. So I didn't. Yeah. And it started creating issues for me there. And it was amazing to me just how many people were like, just do it. It's our job. We have a job to do. I'm like, yeah, we have a job as troopers, but we also have jobs as humans. And so when you tell me that story, I imagine similarly that you began to wonder, can I continue to do this and fulfill my duties while growing a conscience? Or is the fact, in order to do my job, do I just have to die to that? Right. Yeah. And that's uncomfortable.
You know, it is uncomfortable. Yeah. You know, I think of it even like a lighter way, like a lot of people have been at their jobs for a very long time and they hate their jobs.
Yeah.
They hate it, right? Like they've been out of it a long time ago, but something in them, they shut that down somehow and continue on. You know, you think about grandparents that just stuck with one job because they had to. That was the stability. Yep. They stuck with grandma. They was in different rooms. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of
the silent generation,
right?
Was it the boomers of the silent generation, or was it the generation before that?
I don't know. I'll vote boomer though.
Yeah. Everybody just took the L. That was like the mainstay in our parents' generation. You just take the L. You don't like your wife, so what? You got to raise kids. You don't like your job, so what? Yeah. And I'm just like, yo, I don't know, but this sounds kind of unhealthy and miserable and toxic. Yeah. And what does it do to you? What does it do to your kids? What does it do to people in your sphere of influence? To remain in something that no longer serves you or that never served you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about mainstream masculinity. Like, I'm going to keep it stacked with y'all. I am waging war on mainstream masculinity. Consider this day one. I'm declaring it right now. Why? Because mainstream masculinity locked me into a box where I did not feel comfortable, safe, or even encouraged to ask for help. Yeah. When you think about the brothers that you rolled with in the deep. Yeah. You can't tell nobody about your broken leg because you got a job to do. Yeah. When you get home, you might have a broken spirit. You can't sleep. Mm-hmm. You're seeing things all the time. Mm-hmm. Don't go to... You're no longer in the military, right? Like at this point, you're not even in the environment. Maybe let's just say you're at a civilian job now and you're still having nightmares and you still don't sleep and you still think any creak in your house is somebody trying to come in and kill you. So you're clearing your house like every 5 seconds, right? Yeah. What does it do to your mind and to your life? Like after your service, what does it do to you as a man in transitioning back into normal life? If it can be considered normal.
Yeah. I don't know if it ever become, I mean, I guess the norm is the norm. It reminds me of like in the military, we used to say embrace the suck.
I mean, yeah, we used to say that.
And I think in that word, I like that attitude. I do like, you know, even now in my businesses, I tell my guys, I have a moving company. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we got to move a gun safe that's 750 pounds. We moved a 1,200 pound gun safe. So sometimes in situations like that, I'll be like, embrace the suck. And you know what that is? Because we're all going through it. Don't complain because we're all going through the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. So let's just get it done. Embrace the suck.
Yeah.
And I think like Even in that situation, imagine if Buddy's got an ankle that's not feeling that good today, but we about to lift this and go up some stairs with it, right? But he's not feeling good. I just said embrace the suck. He's like, yo, Sarge, I'm not really up for this.
yeah. Like,
I'm not truly up for this, but because you said embrace the suck and we all going through it, we gonna get through it together.
Right.
But like what happens if he gets injured more, eventually doesn't speak up. That's kind of like,
right.
Embrace the suck can kind of lock you into that pain for long term.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just normalizes. I think oftentimes when it comes to us as men, even though, okay, say he said something, ankle hurts, bet. I understand, let's get some ice on it, but we got to do this anyway. That's a lot of masculinity. You got to do it anyway. You got to do the hard thing 100%, no matter what. Figure it out.
Right.
And it's to figure it out, but the figure it out never, there's always solutions that we have to have, right? A human being, like live your life, do your own thing, take care of yourself. I think we're learning now, it's like, you can't just steamroll through everything.
Right. No, you can't.
You can, but at what expense, right? And that's where we talk about like rage, right? When we can't talk about all these things, that's what rage comes out. That's why you got intimate partner violence, right? This rage. That's why you got, we can talk about it in our culture, right? Crime, right? Black on black, all that.
Yeah, drive-bys and scraps and
Rage.
stuff. Like, yeah, it's like all
I'm
that.
not saying that you always got to talk everything out, but like that is the expression of our rage, right? And it's unexpressed. We all know there's other outlets to get that all out, but like, okay, if you don't, here's where it's going to come, right? You're going to bottle it up. We bottle up small things, so just imagine big things.
I mean, and we see dudes swallow big things like it's nothing, right?
Yeah.
One thing I see that men do is when they get divorced, they just be like, I'm good all by myself anyway. Not just men, women do that too.
Yeah.
And that's something that my mother's adopted. And one day I asked him, like, did you ever really think to understand what happened? And if I'm gonna be real and transparent with you, that's a question that I feel like I want to ask my dad that I never got to. Well, my dad is still here, and I don't know if he's going to answer this question, but how did the divorce impact you? Because all I was really given in terms of an explanation was my mother's side of the story, and I had to corroborate that with what I saw.
Sure.
Now that they didn't always line up as I started going through therapy, but I never got that piece, and I'm sure my dad never felt safe to talk that piece. Who did he talk to? You know, I go to walk on a good week. I'm waking up every day at 4 a.m. to walk. And I've been asking myself, what is my dad used to always get up and walk at 4 a.m.
Gotcha.
So what was he saying? Was he talking to God? Was he talking to himself? Who did he believe in? What did he believe in? Like, what was he struggling with? And there's so many men that we work with in the course of our work, that we're homies with, that we're related to, that we're connected to. And you ask them how they doing, and it's almost like, and you ask a follow-up question, it's almost like, yo, bro, what's your problem? Stop asking me questions, man.
Yeah.
That rage. And that rage isn't that really directed at you, even though it's kind of bleeding onto you. Yeah. The rage is more so like, yo, bro, why are you asking me this question when somebody should have been asking me this question like 15 years ago when somebody was touching me? Right. Why didn't nobody ask me this question when I was getting my ass kicked and my dad was kicking my ass on top of it? Sure. Or my mom was kicking my ass on top of it? Why wasn't anybody asking me this question when I showed up to school with my bobos and everybody clowned me because I had bobos on, but what they didn't realize that my house was a mess and my parents weren't sleeping together and they were fighting all the time. I didn't
eat breakfast this morning.
And I didn't eat breakfast this morning. You know, at the Black Boy Joy Summit this last weekend, we had banana bread. And there was this kid that he was on crutches. And yo, Cordan, I've never seen a dude with crutches move so damn fast with banana bread. I'm like, yo, bro, you know, is your leg really broken? Let's talk about it. Take that boot off. Let me see that. Let me see that toe real quick, because I don't think you can move that fast with that. Yeah. And so later on in the day, he was asking me like, hey, is there any more banana bread? And I said, hey, you know what, King? I'll check for you. Okay, can I check that for you and hit you later? He's like, yeah. He's like, please, that would be great. And so I go back into the kitchen and I see all this banana bread in there. And so I cut him a slice and get him a fork and I give it to him. And when I bring it to him, his eyes opened up. He's like, and here are the words that broke me, bro. I had to keep it in. He's like, you did this for me? And I was like, yeah, I did this for you, man. I'm going to do it for you. Yeah. But the magnifying moment there was like, yo, this young brother is probably not used to people just doing things just because, just for him. And men aren't used to that either.
Just existing, being appreciated just for existing.
Yeah.
That's what you can contribute or create.
And we're changing the scope on that, right? Because men...
Which you still got to exist and create things.
Yeah, you do. I don't
know. Yeah. When do you ever get to just exist?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really know the answer to that question. Because even as I wage war on mainstream masculinity, Cordan, I don't actually know if I could just exist. Like, let's think of it in a scenario where my wife just hit it big or became a millionaire and was completely fine, or she just didn't want to work, and I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to create anything if I didn't want to because it was inconsequential, right, financially.
Sure.
Could I just be okay existing? I don't know.
So if the money stopped operating on if the world stopped operating on currency and it was just like a barter system or something like that, where you just, or however it operated, I don't know, live on an island and you just provide for yourself.
Yeah. But
do you think that you could ever just be?
Nah.
Because I mean, you still do things in the world. Like that's like the conundrum. You still.
Well, yeah.
Like being is not like being is more like the happiness, the peace, not even happiness, because happy is still an emotion that is not long term.
Right.
It's just an emotion. It's going to come and go. But peace, same thing, come and go. But like that harmony, I think is what we search for. And it's like, even having this conversation, what is the result of like tearing down masculinity? Like reconstructing it or reconstructing it.
Reconstructing. Yeah, it's actually kind of.
And where do we land with that, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think about my dad. Say he lived a long, long life. I'll back up a little bit. The attitude that I feel like permeates a lot of these conversations is this: even if I talk to you, what are you going to do about it? Right. And so a lot of men don't find reason and purpose in being soft per se. Like, I talk about my emotions. I know that it makes me feel better. I feel seen. I feel relieved. It allows other people to love on me and step in. But I don't think even just me saying that, it's going to convince somebody that this is the way to go. Right. But it's not going to convince everybody, because someone's going to see that I don't even have time for that. I don't. Right. What is that going to do for me? I'm going to go home and talk to my wife about what? Or I'm going to go home. I'm going to go talk to this therapist. And then afterwards, I still got to go back to my shit. So it just opened a whole can of worms when I can just keep it right here. And actually, I'm good.
Yeah, but like, what's the cost of that, right? It's kind of like you need to take a shit.
So how do you get through to that man? Because we all know we want to be happy and be able to speak, but how do you convince someone who masculine, whatever?
You know what I've realized, bro? I used to think that it had to be formulaic, where we had to either entice men with something traditionally masculine. Like, for example, my brother Myron Edmonds, he, at his last conference, had Satino Mobley come through. Shout out to Satino Mobley, man. I was just talking to him the other day. Cool dude. Tall, too.
Yeah.
And I'm short. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're tall to me, bro. And you don't know tall until you've seen Satino Mobley standing next to you. And I'm 5'6" on a good day, 5'5" now that I have some compression in my disc. This dude is like 6'7". I'm like, hey, yo, bro, next time, not just no offense, but next time, I'm going to get some step ladders before I'm going to holler at you, because I can't have you sunning me in my head. But again, that's what masculinity intends. Like, if you taught me, go sun me. Anyway, I was on to something good, and I don't remember what I was saying.
So you was talking about Satina showing up to the thing.
Oh, yeah. So how we get through to men. I used to think you had to get men to show up by waving one or two things in their face. How to make more money, how to get more poom poom, right?
Yeah.
Because men will show up for that all day.
Sure.
Oh, you show me I can get some poom poom? I'm there.
Who gonna be there?
Who gonna be there? Is the poom poom gonna be there, or is this a master class on how you do it?
Right.
Is the money gonna be there? You're just gonna show me on the master class. Dudes always want to get more money. Dudes always want to get more women, but dudes don't always want to get more healing. Why? Because it, like you said, that's a waste of time. I ain't got time for that. I'm in survival. Why are you talking to me about feelings? Why are you talking to me about experiencing these things that most men are convinced are a waste of time to process, right? One of the things that a lot of men don't talk about is sexual violence, because men are known to be the purporters of sexual violence. But what happens when men are the victims of sexual violence and of assault and molestation? That is not something I was willing to talk about. And when I had to reprocess that, I went right to work trying to convince myself that this is not what happened to you, Vlad, because that don't happen to men. That's not what happened to you. I used to hear dudes talk about this all the time, and they were talking about it like, oh yeah, my cousin did this with me, or this girl, when I was in kindergarten, she pulled down my babysitter, yeah. And like Lil Wayne, I don't know if you ever heard Lil Wayne tell the story, but Lil Wayne's telling the story about how he was with all these older men, and he had, and there's this woman that was at the house, this older woman who had sex with him, and he was like, that was a badge of honor. It was like the best day of my life. Right. But I'm like, you were a child. You had no capacity to process any of that stuff. Yet, the way that we cope with that, and the way the people that were around you that let that happen cope with that, is by making it some sort of badge of honor, something to celebrate. And we get to a point where you can't pop any more champagne to take that void out of your soul, right? And so to answer your question, how do we get men to show up, deconstruct, and be willing to have those conversations? Like, yo, bro, it doesn't have to be formulaic. You would just share our stories. You're Cordan James. I met you on a TEDx talk. And I was like, damn, that dude was vulnerable as hell. And when I listened to your story, I'm like, I don't know most men that are willing to talk like that. Right. When I met Myron Evans, I was like, I don't know many men that are willing to talk like that. What removes the stigma is seeing other men in the space, holding space too. Because what are we quick to do, Cordan? Somebody tell you, like, you come to me, you tell me, hey, bro, man, I'm going through this divorce, and I'm crying all the time. Bro, stop being a bitch and come on. Yeah. What is that doing? I'm not holding space now. I'm just snatching it away from you. Yeah. And so then I go home, talk to my daddy about it. Stop being a bitch and come on. There's more than women out there. There are more women than are men. You heard that, right? What am I doing? Yeah. But no, my daddy's snatching space. Can't talk to my wife I'm about to divorce about it because she don't care about my feelings. I hurt her too much. Sure. Snatching space. Can't talk to my kids about it because it's not safe. It's not necessary. Yeah. Snatching space. So men are so accustomed to their spaces being snatched that nowhere is safe. And that's why men get suicidal. That's why men get desperate. And that's why men are more equipped to follow through on suicidal ideations, because we are so desensitized to violence, either through what we're told is okay to do. Like, hey, you're a man, go in the military. Why not? You a man. It's masculine. This is brothers in arms and go to state police.
Matter of fact, I know we talked about this before, but Ted Bunch, he runs the Man Box. Excuse me, A Call to Men is his organization. It's a nonprofit. Okay. And he talks about the Man Box and how the Man Box is how we as men have locked ourselves into homophobia. We don't want to be emotional because that's a soft thing for a woman to do. Men aren't that, right? We don't want to be seen as anything other than, like you said, you're a bitch. It's not something you say to a woman. Right. Right. So it's to demasculate the man.
Those are fighting words, man. Yeah.
Right. So it's like even the way that we speak to each other, oh man, snap out of that, grab your nuts, dig into that, It's like the way our wording not only is violent and masculine, but like how we treat each other is constructed in that as well.
It's interesting. So from what I'm hearing, it's almost like even the language you're saying that we use with each other as men,
think about it,
is violent.
Yeah. Like, damn. When I came off my rack, I was really big on I just settled this, am I a pacifist? Like, I think war is necessary, right? If you ever trespass on mine, I'm going to get me. Right. However, on the global scale, that's, what was I saying before that?
We were talking about, shit, it's coming to me, man. This is what happens. It's so good,
We've been doing good though.
Yeah, we were talking about violence, like how our words are violence with each other.
Yes, the
exactly. Man box. Yep.
So this whole pacifist conversation, it talked about deconstructing how you speak and how violent. Think about if you want to pump me up, what's some phrases you might say to me?
Man up. Get your shit together.
Crush it. Kill it.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow. Damn. I even remember that's part of our lexicon.
I'm trying to think of other things that we say, but everything is
or be a beast. Yeah. Right?
Be a beast, right? And that's this, it's always got to be this very intense.
All or nothing. Almost,
All or nothing, all encompassing, run through the wall, type mentality.
Yeah, we straight Kool-Aid man in it through life, man, as men. But think about it. If our language is always all or nothing towards each other and around each other, then what makes you think that when a man is in isolation and has no longer has the desire or the strength to man up, to kill it, to crush it, to beast it, to or whatever, when that man is in isolation, what makes you think that violent language is not what he's going to use against himself? You know what I mean? So like, okay, I can't crush
and
it
where
today.
where does he land? Right.
Where do you land?
There's nowhere for him to be. He's not a woman, and he can't be emasculated any further. So,
yeah, and for a man, it's like if you're seen as effeminate, then you lose twice.
Sassy.
Yeah, because now you can't go to your brothers and be effeminate.
Right.
And you can't. No woman is gonna want an effeminate man.
Right.
So now where does that leave me? It leaves me in a pretty tight box.
And I think everybody's struggling, men and women. So like the conversation is, we're talking about masculinity, but like for real, everybody's struggling, and everybody needs to give each other grace.
Right.
It's just when it comes to men and we talk about being logical or emotional, we are more to be logical and expected to be logical. So when you ask somebody to be emotional, it's not going to be pretty because there's never been a creation of that space to even be emotional, right? It's almost like you have to relearn. Like you could be picture like an 18-year-old boy who's becoming a man, or even at my age at 37, how do I actually learn how to talk about my feelings? Like you could say, I want you to talk to me about your feelings.
I'd be like, what's a feeling again? How you spell that?
You know what? It's almost like you got to take them back to like how I taught my kid how to identify emotions so she didn't crash out when she was young. I had like this little flip book. It had emojis in it, and it had like mad, frustrated, happy, tired, sleepy, right? And like it had the faces, whatever. Imagine if you've never been mirrored those emotions.
Yeah, or the only emotions that you were mirrored and that were accepted were anger or happiness.
And even if you did see it, doesn't say that you adopted it yourself and that you can speak it for yourself. I think there is a level of practice that comes with speaking like this. I grew up in a lot of spaces, again, therapy my whole life. So like my vulnerability is, even my sister tells me when I first met her at 18, she's like, you different.
you different.
You different. The way you just so open-armed and vulnerable with people, she's like, people are going to run all over you. And I was like,
oh, wow.
Let me tell you, I had to learn how to be affectionate. I was born with reactive attachment disorder, which is like when in the first 5 years, if you are not embraced, cuddled, if you can't depend on a caretaker, you have reactive attachment disorder, which means that you learn to calm yourself down. Think about the baby. When your baby cries, you held it skin to skin. Yeah. You swaddled it. All those things. Anytime it cries, there's attentiveness. So imagine a kid that never has that. Yeah. You just baby learns to cry, and it learns to calm itself down.
So like the baby learns that, because the cry is an invitation to bond and to connect. Like I need comfort, but then you don't get that. So then eventually you adapt and realize that you're not going to get that externally. So you do it for yourself, whether it's adaptive or maladaptive, right?
Exactly. Well said. So even just looking at that lens, like I had to learn like how to hug. I had to learn how to kiss. Like my parents were literally teaching me like, hey, hug your sibling. I was like, nah, we not.
Nah, we ain't on that. We ain't on that.
Yeah. Like people would give me hugs and I would just, oh my God, what are you doing? And that was as a kid. So just like I had to learn how to talk. I had to learn how to talk about my emotions. I had to learn how to feel. My therapist was very big on like, I'm a very logic person, I guess, if you would. I'm masculine, right? Very, very masculine in that definition. But I remember my therapist like, take that from here to here, because we're good for being logical. I can talk through, what's the word?
Intellectualize.
Exactly. Yeah. I can intellectualize. I can talk about the emotions, but not feel the emotions. I cannot emote. Right. So I was very good at like, I could tell you how I feel, but like, are you seeing it on my face? I could tell you how like my dad whooping my butt as a kid. It maybe hurt my butt, but I'm like, oh yeah, he spanked my butt. In reality, like I was bawling. Like,
I was actually having that conversation. Like last night, we were having that conversation about corporal punishment. And up until a point, I thought it was that's normal, bro. Like we needed that. We grew up, like it was tough. And I normalized it, which is normal for you to do that in order for you to survive it.
Yeah.
But then you realize, you get to a point where like, oh damn, that actually kind of fucked me up a lot. Actually,
Yeah.
It made me almost take this like reductionist approach to pain, and I made a game out of it. Right. So it's like, let me show you the person who's beating you, right? Let me show you how much pain I can tolerate to show you that you won't break me. Right. And that's cool. And that's cool. Yeah. But then when you meet people that are just trying to love you and not break you, you don't know the difference. So then now you're almost where there is no pain. And I did this with my wife when we first met. I'm almost looking for reasons for her to cause me pain. And she wasn't biting because she's well adjusted. And so I'm like, why aren't you hurting me? I'm expecting the hurt. I'm expecting the betrayal. I'm expecting for you to go bad on me. That's all anybody has ever done. And now you're not doing it. So now I'm going to create some hurt so you can hurt me back. It sounds crazy, but how often do we do that though, when we grow up that way? So yeah, man, what would be your final plea to the gentlemen in the audience, and even in the women as well who are listening? Because I often find that many men who get help usually do so
at the hands of a woman.
At the hands of a woman.
Yes.
So what would be your final plea, your final thought to the brothers out there who are listening?
One, I feel like I see a lot of programs that are created for us, right? There are, even where we live now, there are programs created for us and there's a lack of engagement. I think it's like we know that there's articles that talk about male loneliness and suicide rates, and we know all the statistics. And then there's a reaction to that. A program gets created, right? And then we're not showing up for it. Or we want to do the bare minimum on it, right? We want to show up for the fun part, like you said. We want to show up for the food or something that makes me look good, right? But like the real work of being there when it's uncomfortable, or being only 3 people there because you showed up on a regular basis, like. Can we trust that we have these spaces for us and we can harmonize in those? Right. So it's just a call to men to really step up, whether it's volunteer stuff, creating those spaces, and just being active in them, engaging them so they can thrive. Because from my experience, when it comes to this nonprofit space, we talking about men. There's not a whole lot of funding opportunities. Wow. Like when I ran this nonprofit for fathers, trying to find funding opportunities usually came from like the other side, maternal health. Right. When you got to talk about the family structure, you can't just talk about dad because, damn, like that's a dire. A lot of people resonate. There's not that. So, and encouraging more people just think about their fathers, think about how it impacted them, think about how our childhoods have led us to where we are now. And most of all, is for men, is like reflecting on who you are as a man. What you stand on, your discipline, your advocacy for your family. I think it's important to understand what that looks like, that you can be masculine. I don't know if everybody's looking at me and thinking I'm not masculine, but I think I'm masculine.
I think you're pretty masculine, bro.
In all the ways, but it's like, yeah, I'm military, so I get like the stereotypical stuff, right? Yeah, I pull triggers. Yeah, I got whatever from LA. All the chinks in the armor. But yeah, I cry. And I pray and I read, I read books and I spend time with my daughter and I get my nails painted. And all the little things that I think really make the zest of life. It makes it better, right? And I can connect with my sons and we hold hands and we hug, give them a kiss on the cheek, tell them that I love him, you know what I mean? And they're 18 to 17. But like it's still
they're men.
They're men. Yeah. So you gotta define your own. Define your own and realize that it's not bottling all that up. It's not going to feel good. Never has and it never will.
Wow. Well, man, damn, I don't even know if I could really compete with that.
What would you say, Vlad? What would you like to say to young men and young women that listen to this podcast?
Yeah, I mean, well, first, before I even say anything, it took me 34 years to realize that painting your nails was okay. And I've had a habit since I was as old as I can remember. I'd always be picking my nails. And I didn't realize I was doing it. I was talking to a therapist last night, a sister, and she said, that's a form of self-harm, right? My wife said the same thing. And I'm like, and my first instinct was like, no, that's not true. No. What are you talking about? I'm not trying to harm myself. What are you talking about? Like, right. Oh, what's wrong with you? But the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, it was anxious. And so the way that I got through it was I got a manicure for the first time, and I liked the way my nails look. And so now I do it on my own. And so I like to, for the first time in 34 years, bro, I'm actually able to see what my nails look like. I didn't know what my nails looked like.
Yeah.
Crazy. Shout out to my nails. But what would I like to say to the men and brothers listening to this podcast? Your definition and your commitment to that definition of masculinity is going to be your demise. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that to encourage you. Because you and I, we've had a phenomenal conversation, definitely not the last. Obviously, we're going to be chopping it up all the time.
Absolutely.
But hear this. You heard it from a military veteran. Y'all know about my time in the state police. We're both black men, especially my black men, listening to this. What we were told was not designed to help us throughout all facets of life. There is a part of you that is going to always be a provider and a protector. And I'm not trying to remove that from us as men. But provision looks different than just getting money and busting heads. Provision is you providing for yourself. Provision is you doing the work. It's you showing up every day, first and foremost, at home and here. Because like you said, your therapist said, if you can't bring it from here to here, you can achieve and achieve, but you're never going to experience life. And I think from what I take from what you said in your last thought is that masculinity and manhood is not as much a list of rules, but the way at which we experience life, right?
Absolutely.
And so if I can experience life, joy, and peace in my heart, I'm standing on 100% manhood business, right? And I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I don't really care at this point in my life if you think I'm crazy because I wear earrings that dingle dangle.
Right.
I don't care if you think it's effeminate that I wear a big old cowboy sun hat with my little I don't really care. I am completely 10 toes down, man, in my masculinity. So my plea to the brothers out there is show up and do the work, please. There are so many programs out there for us, especially us as black men, so many programs out there of support. You got Fathers Uplift locally. You've got Becoming a Man, especially in the Boston area. But there's so many programs in your area, so I encourage you. Research. Go out there and find that help. Don't wait for the help to find you because by then it might be too late, right? And you don't have to wait for your partner to give you an ultimatum to make it so that you show up to therapy and that it's worth it, right? You're already worth it. What you're going to find there is that your love and your acceptance of yourself is what's king, right? So that would be my thing, man. Get out there and get the help. Get out there and do the work. Get out there and stop manning up. Stop beasting through it. Stop killing it. Stop crushing it. You don't need to do any of that. Let's remove violent language from our lexicon. Let's do the work and just experience life, y'all. Ain't got to be complicated. But do the work. Find you a Cordan James, right? Find you a brother that could tap in with you and pour into you and hold you accountable for how you hold your feelings accountable. And any man that's in your life that's snatching your space away, deuces to him. Because we're not going to get through this without each other. And that's my final thing, man. But Cordan, bro, thank you for stopping through, dog. My brother,
Absolutely.
man, it's not going to be the last conversation for sure. But, man, I appreciate you coming through, dog. Appreciate you, man. Love
Absolutely.
you, dog. It's your boy, Vlad the Bull, your number one embrace coach. And
Cordan James, the comeback kid. Thank you.
that's it. We out of here, man. Y'all stay rooted. Thank you for listening to the Roots and Rhythm podcast. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you can stay notified for all our updates, including new episodes. Until next time, y'all, stay rooted.
This watch, so it's counting my steps. It's pretty cool, but I need new tennis shoes, Vlad. I've had my tennis shoes since probably before Lana was born. So do you have any recommendations? I know you're on your fitness all the time.
I used to think that you had to spend at least $150 on shoes, sis, in order for you to actually get some quality ones. But I'm telling you, these new shoes that I tried out, it's like you're walking on air. Matter of fact, you don't even remember you're walking on them at all. It's like you don't even remember you put your shoes on. One time I thought I was barefoot. I'm like, yo, where's my shoes at?
Oh, I love that. And are they light?
Oh, they're super lightweight. They make my old shoes feel like dumbbells by comparison. I'm telling you, These shoes are comfortable, they're lightweight, and it doesn't even feel like you have them on. And on top of that, you can wear them anywhere. They're designed for people who are on their feet all the time, for the moms and dads who are chasing around the kids. So I would highly recommend them if you're looking for something new.
So what are they called and where can I get them?
You can get them at standplus.com. If you go to standplus.com, put in our promo code ADX for an exclusive discount off of your next pair. They are the best all-day recovery shoes, so go ahead and get you a pair.
I'm excited. Thank you, Vlad.
Come on, let's do it.